Well, I'd like to start out by just saying thank you to everybody. It's been a great morning this morning. We got to hear Becca at 8 a.m., which was really, really cool.
Nice.
She's in a seminary, and so we got to see her in a different role, which was really wonderful. I love to see that happening at our church, where people grow in their own spiritual path and bring things to the fore that weren't there before. And then an amazing message from Howard Caesar. I love the questions, what am I and what do we want? It's just a very powerful piece. And, the board's been grateful for everybody that's been stepping up during this time. Operating without a senior minister is not an easy thing for a church to do. And staff has been amazing, and, just doing everything that's going on. I'm floored every week at all of the activity, the opportunities that we have to get together and encourage everybody to participate and take advantage of those. And then, the richness of the speakers that we have, people that are, part of this group. We had Laura speak and stalwarts like Rick and Jean and others that, from our own community, people that have grown up in our community and have something to offer and bring back. And so that's really rich, and we're grateful. I'd like to just welcome everybody again that's come on to the meeting, and thank you for taking time out to participate today. I'd also like to express our gratitude as a representative of the board as a whole, to acknowledge the people that spent the time in the Bridges to Breakthrough workshop and took the time to write out your intentions around several different things. And I'll talk about those with a little bit of specificity in a minute. But to release judgments and emotions and have a commitment of the heart and move towards a place of affirmative prayer. And we received anonymously all of that feedback that everybody put in during the course of that session. And we spent some time with it, and we looked at it from a couple of different vantage points. And it was rich. It was rich feedback. It was powerful. And, I'm really grateful that we had that opportunity to receive this and know where people are and what their hopes and dreams and visions are for themselves in this community. And we're taking all of that into the things that we're doing. So later on, when I get into the business part of Unity Church of the Hills and finances and those sort of mechanistic things, if you will, at that level, we are trying to embody the intentionality that everybody's been setting around healing, moving forward, having a vision, bringing in a new senior minister, and us being a community in the future, what that looks like and what we aspire to be. And so I'm grateful. I know all the board's grateful for this rich conversation that we're having. And this is a part of a continuation of that. And we want to be intentional. In the past, I remember hearing, years ago being on the board, that the board wasn't transparent enough or accessible, or people didn't know who the board members were. And we've really, even prior to COVID, we're intentional about improving that. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity. So, what we heard in that feedback, to me, particularly powerful was the releasing. People were prepared to release fear, loss, judgment, anger, hurts, sadness, frustrations, disappointment around things like the board, the dismissal of the Grandins, our minister, Steve, for all those years. The loss of him being our senior minister, Raz, our interim minister, who was here for just over a month. Our community's gone through a lot, and we continue to hold in consciousness the highest and best, but we have to acknowledge that we've been through a lot, and it has been challenging. And that recognition and that willingness to process it and do what we need to do to address it, and continue to have conversation, to acknowledge those things that still may remain, but with the eye on, healing and moving forward. Because in order for us to do what is ours to do, it's the transcendence of our trials that is so powerful, that we can hand off to others in service and as examples. And so that movement into the committed heart piece, what I heard was there's a strong desire to support our ministry, our families, through things like the spirit circles and the ladies groups, and supporting, through LUT activity and all of the service work, with prayer, financially, with positivity and love. There was a near universal thread around that. And then the prayers that everybody offered from that were so powerful, with this concept of expansion for our community, to grow our community in an artful expression. I love that piece, through things like all of our activities, our services, our spirit circles, with a focus on, the youthful energy and volunteering and love and harmony and diversity and dynamism. And also being willing to address the hard issues, the things that we're walking through around race and class and gender and ethnicity and the politics that are going on, so that we're a true spiritual center that's being real and addressing the challenging issues in a way that's centered in spiritual principle that transcends all of this. And so I just want to thank everybody for participating in that process and being so honest and willing and setting forth a high ideal on how to move forward. And so these things are things that we as a board want to hold in consciousness as we move into, the operations of the church. And I've got a PowerPoint slide for that. I do want to, at this point, maybe just take a moment and ask if there were any of the other board members at this point that wanted to share with the group something that came forward from them through that work that we did with Bridges to Breakthrough. Was there something that you'd like to add at this juncture surrounding that?
I was just really grateful for all the participation and all the beautiful sentiments and everything, just reiterating what you said. Thank you all.
Okay. Well, maybe I got it covered then. I just wanted to make sure. So we'll move into sort of the business end of pieces. And so I'm going to go ahead and start a PowerPoint presentation. And so, this is an update on a number of fronts. The first one is going to be around the state of our finances. Over the years, we've been asked at multiple times, keep us updated on what's going on and where we are and what's happening with regard to our finances. And so there'll be some discussion around that. Also, our 2021 budget and the considerations that the board made when we were setting that. The church operates on a fiscal year that starts October 1 and runs through September 30 of each year. So we are just in the process of closing out this fiscal year, and at the board meeting earlier this month, set our annual budget for fiscal year 2021. Want to provide an update on the interim ministry activity. Immediately following Raz's having to step down from the position as interim minister, we started the activity of looking for another interim minister. In addition to that, we're going to provide an update on the senior minister search. And so now it's actually kind of a parallel function where we're looking for an interim minister and have begun the process of a senior minister search. And then the last piece is, sorry, my things, oh yeah, everybody can see it. The plans for reopening. We have a reopening team that's been active for the whole time that we've been, or most of the time we've been in the COVID-19 circumstance, and they're working with the board, and we'll provide updates on that activity and what's happening with the reopening, and you heard some of that in the announcements already. So before I go into the actual numbers piece around the state of Unity Church's finances, I want to talk a little bit about what's happened in the past 7 months with us and around the finances and how we've been operating and addressing some of the issues. Probably the biggest piece that has affected everything that the church does is we transition to virtual services. Back in March, when everything shut down, I met with all of the staff and we initiated a wholesale effort, and staff has done just an amazing job. I can't express how much creativity and effort and love and care has gone into creating the rich online content that we have that in some ways is groundbreaking. We're doing things nobody else has done. And it's a powerful piece. One of the things we did on the financial side was we participated in the payroll protection program. And that was a significant piece to help improve our cash situation during the COVID time, enable us to keep a fully functioning staff on board during this time and provide all the services and content that we do. We worked with our bank on our primary loan deferment. May through June, we paid only principal, but no interest on the notes. Now that interest is deferred to the end of the loan, but it again allowed us to save some money and preserve our cash position during the COVID-19 period. We did things like, we renegotiated our copier lease because we were making less copies and some other, smaller pieces like that. But again, it's those kind of little details when you add them all up, make a difference in what our operational costs are. And we deferred some other debt service. We have a smaller Unity note to Unity Worldwide Ministries, and that's been deferred per the terms of the agreement to after the first of the year, again, to improve our cash position. And we've worked with staff. Staff has been diligent about trying to keep costs low and checking in on, hey, we're looking at doing this to save these costs here and so forth and so on. And so those efforts, again, they all add up. We temporarily halted the We Wisdom program, and the reopening team has worked with Carrie and We Wisdom staff to come up with safe procedures, and I can happily report that we restarted We Wisdom again this month, and it's providing a valuable service to those families, and so we're grateful that can operate. And then another thing that we've done is focused and really looked at where are we tithing to, and looking at local ways that we can make a difference and ways that we can make a difference with current events. And so a number of the sharing is caring pieces have addressed that. So moving into the numbers now, I'm going to talk a little bit about some trends, and I'm going to put up a chart that shows where we've been for the last 12 weeks with regard to revenues. So you can see on this chart, on the left y-axis is the weekly revenue amount that comes in through gifts and tithes and love offerings, and that's everything that comes into the church, facility rentals, all of that. And then on the bottom, we've got time with the weeks there. And you can see the blue line represents the weekly cash flow. And there's variation. There always is variation in what we see coming in on any given week. And so one of the things we do to kind of make it a little bit more readable is use moving averages. And so this orangish line is a 4-week running average. So it takes these first 4 weeks of data points and averages them, and then it takes the next 4 weeks and so forth and so on. And so we can see that we've got a trend that was running around 17,000 or so, and has dropped down more in the past few weeks to a little less than 15,000, somewhere around that range. Important points to note, right now we're operating at less than what our budgeted amounts were for the year. Our budget, we needed to bring in a little over $25,000 a week to be able to operate within our budget. But because of cost savings, reductions, not having a senior minister payroll for all of this time, we had Raz on for a while with a salary package associated with that. Our operating costs have gone down, and so our break even is probably something closer to 20,000 a week to bring in. And so it's pretty obvious, we've only been above that break-even line 3 times in the last 12 weeks. So we are not operating even at a break-even point at this time. And now, fortunately, we have been very conservative, I guess you could say, in terms of taking all the actions that I described before to anticipate. And we've got a wonderful new finance person, Ron Sherwin, who gave us a heads up. Hey, we're going to have some challenges with the way things are looking right now. We need to optimize our cash position. So we do have some reserves, but we don't have a lot of reserves. And so we're going to need to bring our weekly gifts and tithes and our revenues up in order to be able to meet all of our expenses. And I'll talk a little bit about some of those things that we're looking at within the context of our budget to address those. So our budget, like I said, it starts in October of this year and runs till September 30th of 2021. And some of the things that we took into this budget with these current circumstances in mind, or assumptions that we made. The first one was that gifts and tithes will increase to at least $16,000 per week. And that will improve our situation over what we've seen over the past few weeks, and help us move closer to a sustainable level. We're going to focus more heavily on the ability to bring in events, both on the virtual level and as well as in-person events as things open up. We know that the COVID situation is temporary. At some point, things are going to go to stage 2 in the city of Austin. Things will continue to open up, and as they do, we'll adjust and provide for more live programming and things that people can go and attend and so forth. And those events, some of which, have the ability to generate substantial revenue for the church. And that we also want to see and anticipate increased participation in terms of attendance numbers and so forth through reopening. And so one of the immediate things that we're doing is, starting live participation in the services in the Pavilion on the 11th. And then we've got the special service on the 16th, that's going to be in the Pavilion as well. And so we're wanting to create more activities on the campus, but do it in a safe way. Also, we usually experience a year-end giving increase around the holidays and Christmas time that we anticipate will round out that first quarter in a healthy fashion. We expect the school to remain open. The school spent a lot of time working with the reopening committee, as well as the, working with the state and regulations and guidelines to come up with safe practices and procedures. And so we feel confident that they're going to be able to continue to operate in a healthy fashion. We recognize that the COVID-19 will have an impact on our operations for some time over the next year. And we did anticipate a deficit budget for 2021. Now, hopefully we do better than that, but that was a consideration, and that's where we wound out. So one of the big questions is okay, we've got this budget, what is ours to do individually and collectively as a community? So, one of the pieces is that, to operate even within the planned deficit budget that we have, we need to increase our individual giving by about 15% over what it's been recently in the last few weeks. If we want to operate without a deficit, we need to increase our giving by 42% over the amount that we've been seeing the last couple of weeks, to get up into that $20,000 per week level. And I know that sounds like a lot of money, but we've got a lot of congregants, and so, we can do that. Other pieces, though, the effect of our participation in the church goes beyond, the financial giving, obviously, and things like volunteering. Shonda, our volunteer coordinator, every week puts out a call for participation. And so there are things that we can do, and some of these things do have fiscal impacts. If we have people volunteering, say, at the front desk or in the bookstore, that will allow time for staff to do other programming things and expand our services and so forth and so on. So even though it's not a direct financial contribution, it's still energy going into our community that allows us to do more. And so that's piece. And, if somebody's concerned about working indoors, well, we also had the call this week to come out and participate in, the garden. And Kathy Vellafuco, I hope I didn't butcher her last name too badly, is coordinating an effort to participate in that. And so, there are many of those types of things. And every week, Shonda puts out a call for volunteering. So, we can spend our time as well as our treasure and bring our talents to support our church community. I would like to move on next to update on our interim ministry. Like I said, as soon as we found out that Raz was going to have to step down, the board convened and said, okay, we need to work on finding a new interim minister, because we recognize there's this desire for a spiritual focus and leadership for our community. We all want that. Everybody wants that. What's wonderful is we have this amazing, rich community with so many people that we can operate without a spiritual minister, but staff, the board, and the congregation all want to see, the central focal point. And so we're going to hold that in consciousness. So we reinitiated work with Unity Worldwide Ministries as their member services division. And we've been working with Cynthia over there and Doug and Carrie. And we submitted another board assessment set of packages, which we did that last fall when we started working with them for the first time. And they asked for us to do it again, and we did, so they could see where we were, where we are, and what is it that we're looking to bring with the consciousness that we have now. And one of the things that was really nice was that we had put together in our work with Dr. Teal a vision around what a senior minister could look like, and that was in an effort towards the senior minister search, but it also has impact on what we want for an interim minister too. And so we've met with Unity Worldwide Ministry staff following that, and they are engaged in an active search. And I can report that there's at least one lead that's promising at this point. We'll know more in a week or two, but that's an active search. In addition, we've been working with Dr. Teal as a consultant, and he has access to a wide network throughout the New Thought movement and ministries that are outside of Unity. And so he's putting feelers out as well, too, for interim ministers as well. And so we're going to continue this interim minister search while we're simultaneously pursuing a senior minister. And one of the things I want to hold in consciousness is that highest and best vision for a senior minister or an interim minister for our church, and being open and willing, and so we don't miss the opportunity that we invited in when it comes to the fore, because it will. We're holding that in consciousness, and I'll talk a little bit more about what's happening around that in an intentional way with the ministerial search team. So I'll move from that into the senior minister search. We initiated the 3 teams, and that's a core candidating team, a promotion team, and kind of marketing and promotion, if you will, and then a consciousness or prayer team. The core candidating team is the one that's putting together the package, and we have a board member on that, Mary, that's our representative, and a number of congregants that are focused on finding that minister. And then we've got the promotion team that's going to be doing things like, well, let me stay on that. So the core candidating team, has developed a package for, our minister, and we've sent that off to Unity Worldwide Ministries with all the requisite documents and so forth and so on, so we can kind of get into their system and their network that they have for, finding ministers. And they have a website for that, and they post jobs, and there's a whole set of processes around that. And then we have our prayer and consciousness team that's generated the affirmative prayer, which we said in the second service today. They pray twice per week, and they're also providing services as prayer partners to not only candidating team, but also to, well, I asked for one specifically if I could have a prayer partner. And so, you know, we want to be really intentional about keeping in consciousness all through this process that highest and greatest vision. And then last, the marketing team will be updating things like the website and using social media and so forth to, you know, support this search. And so I think we've got about 25 people on those 3 teams. So it's a substantial effort. It's a lot of work, and we're grateful for all the people that are willing to volunteer their time and do that. And then last, I'd like to talk a little bit about the plans for reopening. You know, the reopening team continues to meet and provide regular updates to the board, and we want to stay plastic and flexible around this. You know, we did have sort of a test run where we did 1 week live, and then the numbers started coming up, and we didn't feel right about that. And you know, the numbers now have been going down in terms of COVID cases and so forth. And so we're gonna try this you know, outdoor pavilion piece and gradually work our way into you know, more services, live services, and you know, hopefully be back in the sanctuary in the not too distant future. So starting on the 11th, we'll be live streaming in the pavilion, and then on the 16th, we'll have a special service that's going to usher in our answering the call program, which was really kind of our concept that Tammy, our spiritual director, came forward with around, you know, how do we want to approach this fall? And it's answering the call for ourselves individually, as a community, as our new senior minister, as our interim minister. You know, we all get to answer those calls, and it just is a great idea that resonated. You know, like I said, we'll continue to operate, you know, in conjunction with the feedback from the reopening team, and as we deem it appropriate, we will continue to open and expand our live services. So I think that's everything I had that I wanted to cover at this time.